The Final Frontier. These are your adventures as you explore, seeking out new life and civilizations, expanding your borders and exploiting the resources you find, befriending allies, or exterminating the foes that get in your way.
Contact detected entering sector. Configuration unknown. Assessing. Initiating countermeasures.
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me now? Hello, hello, hello. It's the sound of silence. Okay, let's start that again. We're going to take it from the top. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. If you can hear me now, I am showing some audio. I don't know why. Oh, dear. That kind of happens from time to time. Okay, so let's start again. Welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony. Thank you for joining us here on Saturday at 11 o'clock. Boom! Yeah. Okay, so Lord Plagueis is no longer with us. We have moved on beyond, and the full fact and stereo sound now is back in full effect. Okay, so I'm not sure why my production software is being so glitchy, but this is what's going on. So thank you for the chat to let me know that the audio is a no-go, and we've fixed that problem on the fly here. Thank you very much. Let's start again. What are we talking about today? You might have already heard this clip, but here we go. We're talking about...
Whoa! Good God, y'all! What is it good for? Absolutely! Get sad again!
Well, we're going to be talking about that. We've got at least two factions that have decided to rough and tumble, and a third that's getting into the mix. So we'll be talking about that and all the drama and the behind-the-scenes shenanigans, as somebody would say, as to what is going on. Thank you, everybody, for the magic number 14, which we're at now for double digits. And big shout out to Gordo, first time listener, viewer, and maybe donator, as we're talking all things F&E and Star Trek. What is Star Trek New Worlds? It is a turn-based strategy game that we play here online with you, inspired by the rule set of Federation Empire, not the vanilla, pure, IV, straight from the cow F&E. We have our homebrew rules and slight adjustments we make to enable. Wow, words, they wonderful today. The 4X version of this game, which goes beyond vanilla F&E. So we are inspired by that rule set. We play it here online with you today on YouTube Live, and the magic of the map is populated by Vassal. So thank you for joining us here, and we'll jump back into what I was talking about. Here we go. So we'll talk about the economy. All right, so you might have seen this seconds ago and might not have heard what I was saying. So here we are. Tholians holding steady at the bottom of the pack at 58.5. They are rocks, and they're sinking to the bottom as they should. The Hydrans have decided to keep them company near the bottom at 60, holding steady on their economy. But the ISC are climbing up, tying themselves with the Lyrans at 61.5 EP. The Borak suffering a slight setback due to some energetic efforts. Is now at 65.5 versus their previous 67. The Kzinti are wonderfully chilling at 69. Wonderful number there. The Paravians creeping forward by 2 up to 76. The Federation, 78.5. The Carnivon climbing ahead by 2. 95. And the Klingons holding steady, as you can see on the graph there. The very top black line at 100.5. So that's where we're at when it comes to the economy, the progression, and how things are going here in turn 61. All right, let's slide back into the chat and chat about qu'est-ce qui arrive, mes amis. All right, so let me clear my throat. Unfortunately, he who shall not be named / the thing that was occupying my head last week is still tickling in the back of my throat, so we're going to power through and get through that. What is going on here? So if you like all things Star Trek and you like turn-based strategy, there we are, then please feel free to consider today's inspirational motivation. You can do that through the coffee QR code there, or head over to the link, which is also pinned in the comments, and you can fire us a photon torpedo of caffeinated goodness to keep me stimulated, lubricated in the larynx, and giving you the greatest goodness that you can possibly imagine. I'm going to take a preemptive sip right now, because as you can hear, there's a little bit of something in my throat. I'm going to sort this out right now. Oh yeah. All right. Shields up, phasers firing at the ridiculousness that's in my throat. So let's dive into the map and talk about what in the world is going on and who is who in the zoo, we'll focus in on the focal point right away so that we can all see what's going on here when it comes to this map. So let's slide into the map and see what is going on. All right, so we've talked about Econ. Let's talk about fleet cap real quick. So you can see here at the top, the Borak are at a total of 48 ship equivalents. So 48 ships floating around deep space with 122 total attack, 253 defense. The Carnivon, oh, ladies and gentlemen, mystery antagonist has fired a photon of goodness. Caffeination my way. I'm going to take a quick sip, and in a moment, I will tell you about that progress bar on the bottom. Oh, yes. So you can see right below my head, there is a green bar that has suddenly appeared after that photon fired of fantasticness. Our goal today is count them four, quattro coffees. We are 25% towards our goal. If you would like to contribute towards the 100% accomplishment of our mission today, then please feel free to hit that QR code. The link is also pinned in the comments, and of course, Star Trek or coffee.com/New Worlds. You can check that out and fire a one-time donation, or you can join us with a monthly subscription, so to speak, to keep us stimulated, motivated, and keeping you with the latest and greatest news of what's going on in the galaxy. Let's continue on with the Carnivon. Like I was saying, 112 total ship equivalents, 245 total attack, 458 defense factors. They got a couple cripple ships there. You'll notice the difference between their defense and the fleet cap. Fleet cap is their, for all intents and purposes, their total defense factor, but the difference, the delta there, is usually associated with crippled ships. Moving on to the Federation, they have a total of 74 ships in their fleet, 160 total attack, 289 defense. The Hydrans, our good friends with the 60 EP, are at 59 total ships, 129 attack, very close to the Borak. 229 total attack, 253 on the defense. The ISC, my brothers in arms, 42, magic number 42. The answer to the universal question is 42. 102 total attack factor, even 200 on the defense with fleet cap, a 204. The Klingons, the biggest economy in the game, are the second biggest navy with 100 total units, 240 attack, 421 defense, fleet cap, 459. So they still got quite a few crippled ships floating around in the midst of being repaired. The Kzinti are at 55 total ships, 130 attack, 231 defense. The Lyrans, my adversaries, are at 57 total ships in their fleet. Notice the noticeable delta between their 57 and my 48. 57 total ships, 132 attack, 273 defense, matching their fleet cap. Our Paravians, our Kentucky fried feathered friends, obviously the alliteration is troubling my tongue. The Paravians, total of 25 ships. They are definitely trying to climb back up the Navy ladder, so to speak. 25 total ships, and I've lost the number. There it is, 78 total attack factors, 154 defense. Our good friends, the Tholians, our final faction on our list at 73 total ships, 127 attack factors, 333 on their defense, matching their fleet cap. And that's the roundup on what's going on there. All right, let's zoom in and see what's going on. Okay, why am I focusing on this little pocket? Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is where all the drama is happening. Yes. Oh my goodness gracious me. So, as a quick recap of what was going on in our previous turn, the Lyrans, for those of you not familiar with the Starfleet universe, Lyrans, cat-like periods, yeah, cat-like persons, right, like werecats, you might say. Mountain lions, lynx, they look like they are walking bipedal thundercats, for lack of a better way to describe them. And they are currently at war with the Borak. If you've seen the short, you will note that there was a Borak, a sole, solitary, singular tugs, not exactly known for their offensive capabilities. Borak tug, all alone in deep space, was mercilessly attacked by the Lyrans in a vile attempt to provoke and instigate conflict between us. Of course, it would seem that the Borak propaganda office is, information news network is working hard here at the Star Trek New Worlds desk. So, yes, the Lyrans were viciously, maybe they thought that the tug was carrying catnip, I don't know, but nonetheless, they attacked this tug. And in spite of its best efforts, was decimated in a plume of fiery destruction. In retaliation to this unbelievable and outrageous offense, Borak vessels were previously briefed to be able to attack a base in Gulf 26, right underneath this red and white Fourth Fleet here. So there was a base, a YBS right here. And due to the courageous efforts, a proportional retaliation was executed and a base was popped. And ships returned to their base of operations. Now, hoping that this was the end of the eternal conflict, no, the Lyrans continued their assault with a merciless and inhumane attack on a civilian convoy, which was in the hex that's highlighted right now, India 23. As you can see, these destroyers helmed by a light cruiser entered the hex, decimating the civilian convoy and its sole frigate escort. Unbelievable, inconceivable, inexcusable. Lyrans unleashing their fur-flying, ferocious ways. And despite the Borak's best efforts at peace, the Lyrans continue their unbelievable, unassailable, no, that's not the right word, their unbelievable, inconceivable assault against the Borak. Now, one of the pivotal points that seems to be between these two precocious fellows is the future and the outcome of the Romulan faction you can see here in the middle of the map. Home Fleet and First Legion, if I'll take away the ships real quick, you can see, I'll take away bases real quick, so you can see on the map, you can see this distribution of blue, yellow, and red. Now, this minor faction, due to the wonders of our random generator machine, populated two independent minor factions right here, both Romulan, through the magic of dice, and so they are a sort of mega minor faction. You can see the medium planet here with the big bubble on top of the littler bubble, and the developing planet with the small circular with the little dot in the middle. So these two planets are part of the Romulan or the Romulus mega minor faction here. And the Borak, being a incorporated entity, we're attempting to develop economic relationship with these folks, and we're developing, building up bases to be able to trade with them and so on and so forth. The Lyrans, however, previously moving into this area and exploring and then sort of going off and doing other things in other areas, had claimed that this was essentially theirs, their territory. They claimed ownership and sovereignty over these Romulan folks. And the Borak position was, well, they're independent people and so on and so forth. And so, needless to say, the Cats and the Borak, we disagreed on this. And Borak kept reaching out, trying to negotiate some kind of border, some kind of common ground. And the Lyrans were, shall we say, less than agreeable when it came to where they wanted that border to be. A little back and forth, and with each sortie back and forth between us diplomatically, the Lyrans' demands grew, ever increasing, which was unfortunate because, well, it resulted in the war that we're at. However, it would seem, and here's where the drama kicks in, it would seem that while all this debate was going on, behind the curtain, in dark corridors, unseen by galactic news networks and the UN of diplomacy, shall we say, there was the most unholy of alliances being built. The most disgracious, that's not a word, the most outrageous of relationships being forged. Something that you would never think would happen. it has come to our attention, Borak Intelligence / Galactic News Network / Information Ministry, it has come to our attention that the Lyrans have been secretly working together in an alliance with no one less than the Carnivon. That's right.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Unbelievable. Inconceivable, you might say. Dogs and cats working together. What is the galaxy coming to? That's right. The Carnivon have just declared war against the Borak. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, a coffee has been fired by Lost Muskrat. By the way, our Carnivon player. Quick sip to all of you. Oh, a little dribble. Oh, yeah. Wipe that coffee off my brow. So, I see some very interesting chit-chat going on. Eugene, you're supposed to be the public affairs officer for the home office here. What's going on? Okay, so we'll get into that chat in a second. So, for context, the Lyrans and the Borak, as you saw with the economy and the fleet cap numbers, are roughly equal. Lyran fleet count is a little bit higher than the Borak. The economies are very similar, within a couple of EP of each other. And generally speaking, you might say that the Borak and the Lyrans are, relatively speaking, an equal fight. When we have looked over the live streams, over the various live streams, and please feel free to look back and check things out. And during, of course, when you saw the economic graph, the Carnivon are the second largest economy in the game, very close to, tying with the, at 95, which is their EP, they are very close to the Klingons, who are at 100 and 100.5. So very close to the Klingons. And the Carnivon are the largest military in the game, with 112 ships and a gazillion attack factor and so on. So they have the largest military in the game, the second largest economy. They are a force to be reckoned with. Previous to this declaration of war, the Borak and the Carnivon had engaged in very fruitful, or seemingly fruitful, negotiations, and had, if you've already seen the YouTube short, had negotiated a settlement, or like an agreement, when it came to the unexplored territory between them. And that they were basically, there was a first come, first serve kind of policy, whereby they would both be exploring the space between them, and whoever successfully explored that space first would essentially claim ownership over it, or sovereignty over it, and go forward from there. Now, last turn, or at the beginning, shall we say, of this turn, 61, the Carnivon declared war against the Borak, and moved to claim these two resources right here. So if I bring the ships back, this stack of ships, 2 CAs and a YFF, and then this stack of ships moved in to be able to take this. Now, I'll go over all the unbelievable, inconceivable, outrageous number of ships that the Borak have in the area, but essentially the Carnivon have brought the hammer down on the very soft anvil that is the Borak, and it's about to go down. But without further detail, let's take a moment, take a step back, and talk about the friends on the fringes. We'll start with our good friends, the Klingons. I'm going to move my head to the other side so I am not distracting from the black and blue, well, black and white, examples of what's going on here. Now, one of the things I'm noticing is another trade network, or what do we call it? Trade route that has been established between the Klingon homeworld over here and the Romulan, the Romulan planet over in the corner here. So we've got a trade route between the Carnivon and the Klingons, and another one between this minor faction and Klingon space, or Klingon homeworld. So we've got some good trade network going on here. We'll start with the back corner and work our way around to the bottom clockwise. So you can see that the Klingons do have a couple of unexplored hexes in the backyard here. We can see that there is a survey ship, the D4E, a Y-era survey ship, is doing its best to seek out and explore in a sort of... Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Smitty has fired a caffeinated goodness. Quick cheers to my ISC ally. Oh, yes. Okay, so D4E is exploring into the Great Gray in the top right corner or top left corner. We have another survey ship here. I'm curious why it's there. I don't know where it was before. Maybe it's about to go through this wormhole. We'll talk about that in a momento. But other than that, you can see there is, if I take away the ships real quick to make it easy to see, there's not a lot of logistical supply in this area or neck of the woods. Based on the current distribution of ships, I'm going to guess that the Klingons have a 3 supply. So you can see that this base reaches out to basically its maximum reach. These planets max reach out here, and there's nothing really, no other kinds of fixed supply points that can provide supply to reach all this fog of war hexed area in the background. As a reminder, developing planets and above, developing planets, an example being this planet right here, circle with the dot in it, and above can provide supply, colonies cannot, and then of course bases such as YBSs and YDKs can provide supply and extend out. So if we assume that the Klingons currently have the tech of 3, in the sense of their supply tech is at 3, they can reach out 3 hexes, and that's probably where they're at. Bring back the ships, you can see this convoy may be providing extended supply to allow this ship to survey. But if they discover resources and or planets within this space, they won't be able to sort of claim it, unless they've got force supply, until they build bases and various other things to help support that. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Maybe they have force supply. Who knows? As we go around the outer exterior here, we can see small exploration freighters and large exploration freighters conducting survey into these unexplored hexes. We've got a smattering of bases. We've got a tug here. Looks like it is in the midst of building a base, or just finished building a base, excuse me. And then we've got this F4, which is intercepting this size class 2, which is a larger, the smaller the number, the bigger the size. So size class 2 is a very large derelict. We'll see what happens, what that thing is. Hopefully the Klingons will report to us what they have found. Perhaps it's a what's it called in Warhammer 40K when they find a I can't remember what it's called. Big behemoth ships that are floating through space. I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, maybe that's what it is. And there's some scary things on board, gene stealers and the like. Or maybe it's a treasure trove of technology. Maybe it's a dormant AI that's about to take over the Klingon Empire. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? As we go down, we've got Blue and West Fleet, which basically are just collections of their massive F4 fleet. I think this one, the first IWR squadron, which if I take a look at it here, is a bunch of ships, crippled ships that they're repairing. And of course, this is a YDK, so it's a center for repair, and they'll be repairing those shortly. As we go down around the corner here, you see more large exploration freighters, and this Northwest Fleet is pretty much more the same. It's actually, though, which is interesting here, Northwest Fleet, a couple of E1Ts. So the question is, E1Ts in a fog of war hex, what are they doing? They have virtually no opportunity to be successful in exploration, so I'm not sure what the deal is here. They can't even provide, I would argue, they can't even provide extended supply from a fogged hex out, but who knows? We'll see. So large exploration freighters doing their thing up and down the sort of agreed border between the Carnivon and the Klingons. For those of you who are new with us, you may notice, as I zoom out, I'll zoom out real quick here, you can see that there are some neutral zones, these yellow hexes between various factions, agreed borders between folks. But there is no such border between the Klingons and the Carnies. Why is that? Well, early on, we noticed that the Klingons and the Carnies had a tacit agreement about where their border was without establishing a fixed neutral zone. So very interesting to note, it allows them some unique opportunities, latitude, you might say, when it comes to ship movement and potentially resource capture. We'll have to see how this all kind of goes forward. So it'll be very interesting to see. So as we scroll down and around the corner, we can see more of these large exploration freighters. And then this little nugget of a border that's been established between 6 hexes, between the Lyrans and the Klingons. I'm assuming a minor negotiation to avoid any particular hot war shooting. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But nonetheless, Red Fleet, some more large exploration freighters. We got some cruisers and an exploration ship. If I take away the ships real quick, we can see the base infrastructure. There's a base about to be completed here this turn or next turn. And we've got various bases facilitating further expansion and exploration, probably going down again in the southwesterly direction to perhaps get around behind the Lyrans. We'll see. We'll see what that looks like. But the Klingons, nonetheless, really scooping up quite a bit of territory overall. You can see here Joint Task Force Beta and Alpha. Let's see what these guys have. We got Beta, which is a dreadnought with a prime team, which those two together have as much chance to successfully survey as a survey ship without a prime team, plus an escort of 4 F4s. I swear to God, those F4s, best ship in the game, or one of the best in the game. Joint Task Force Alpha, I have a feeling it's the same. Yes, look at that. Another C4. No prime team this time, but C4 and an escort of F4s making its way down and around. We've got another cruiser, large exploration freighter, just discovered a medium planet with a remnants, so that's going to be quite interesting. Let's just take a quick look at this late stage in the game. Minor factions that we discover. This is, what was the fleet here? It's, come on, Atlanta. So Atlanta. Here we go. So Atlanta, look at the size of this fleet. It has a dreadnought, which is the KC-4, 2 command cruisers, 3 cruisers, a commando cruiser, 6 destroyers, 12 frigates, and a tug. That's a lot for a minor faction. And it also has 6 planetary ground bases, and a YDK. That's pretty impressive. So it's a medium planet with indifferent, so it doesn't like or hate the Klingons at this point, but very, very interesting. Of course, we've got another Gorn planet. Interesting that they're friendly, considering the Klingons stomped a Gorn faction earlier in the game. Interesting to note. But that is, nonetheless, where we're at. And a crippled auxiliary raider in the background here, obviously tangled with this D4E, and came out on the worst side of it. I guess this D4E is going to head over to a base, do a little repair, and recover, and then we'll have back at this little Tango cruiser here. Okay, so that's the Klingons. Let's do one last check of this wormhole. So this wormhole goes to Tholian space. We'll talk about that. I'll scroll down and show you there in a second. So you can see here we've got a YDK, plug in the hole so nothing comes through. We've got Tholian Border Squadron, which is quite a, where are you at? Tholian Border Squadron. Look at this. Oh, look at those F4s. Oh, so many of them. 8 F4s sitting there on this YDK. That is certainly going to be more than enough to keep anything Tholian coming through for sure. But if I scroll down here, this is where that wormhole is, the J wormhole. And look how close the Tholians are coming. And look at what home fleet, let's say we got a whole bunch of planetary ground bases waiting to deploy, and Klingon home fleet. Let's look at Klingon home fleet. Boom. We've got another 7 F4s, and it looks like another one about to be repaired, sitting there waiting to deploy, potentially. So Klingons have more than a couple ships in the background, more than enough to be able to stop anything coming through that wormhole, and very interesting, certainly, to see what may or may not come through, or maybe they go through that wormhole. We shall see. So that's the Klingons, which are obviously on the west side of the Carnies. Let's look to the east side, and then we're going to jump back into the chat. All right. So we've got the ISC. I'll move my head to the other side. Here we are. We've got the ISC, the Interstellar Concordium, previously having signed a mutual defense agreement with the Borak. What is going on here? We have seen that you can see a little green and yellow and a little yellow and black on either side of this sort of transitory line. They have obviously swapped ships. Why do they do this? Because in this game, in this campaign, when you swap the ships and you bring them back to your homeworld, you can reverse engineer those ships, and provided there's not a huge difference in tech, you can get some research points, which helps you get to your next tech milestone faster. So very interesting to see what will happen here when it comes to the exchange of tech. And of course, again, you can see another no neutral zone between the Carnies and the ISC. The Carnivon have essentially established no borders between anybody so far in this game. Very interesting to note. Okay, so we got 4th, 10th, 5th, 6th, Judgment, all in this neck of the woods. Let's take away the ships real quick. You can see the bases. This one completing this turn, 96 Spring, is turn 61. And then, of course, you got the YBS here. And on the Carnivon side, you got a big, hefty YDK just sitting there looking pretty. Bringing those ships back, and we've got, on the Carnivon side, a survey ship, large exploration freighter, random tug, survey ship, large exploration freighter, survey ship. So they previously had a bunch of military ships in this area and then redeployed them all to deal with the Borak. You know, what are you going to do? We'll talk about that in a moment. But the ISC here, sitting with 5th, 6th, Judgment, 10th, 4th, all these little fleets. Again, keeping in mind that the ISC have approximately around the same number of ships as the Borak, and the majority of them working towards survey and exploration, and a couple of them in this area doing tug and base building and all this kind of stuff. You can see there's a commercial convoy here that is en route to what I'm assuming is this YDK to establish a trade route, so we'll see how that goes. A civilian convoy up here, sort of like a normal convoy, not a commercial convoy. So I'm assuming building a base up here on the other side of this Orion base. Building a base up here to facilitate exploration. And if we take away the ships real quick, you can see that they have YDKs on both of their wormholes, plugging the holes to where they go. So the hotel wormhole goes to Federation space down here. And the F wormhole, interestingly enough, as I scroll down and move over here, you can see the F wormhole is in the midst of unexplored space on the in between Tholian and Paravian space. So very interesting to see that there. Okay, so that's the ISC. And again, the ISC now tied with the Lyrans on their economy. They were at one point either at the bottom or very close, and they are slowly, over time, getting themselves out of that hole, much like the Borak did, and it took so long. But that's sort of where we're at. All right, so that's the ISC. That is the Klingons. And now let's slide back to the chat, and let's talk about what's going on. All right, so let's pull up this chat and see what's going on. Ooh, okay, I'm going to go up to, once you could start hearing me again, Eugene, Borak civilians? Are there such a thing? Or is that just reserves soldiers on leave? Or war production employees? Really? I'm going to have to take a quick sip to wet my whistle before I spit my response. Stand by. Oh, yes. Yes, Borak's civilians. Come on now. We are an incorporated entity. We're not a militaristic organization. We are not like the Carnivons, living in a pack world, coming over the crest like a wave of orc raiders. No. No, we are economically motivated, scientifically inspired. We are trying to grow economically, diplomatically, grow our GDP. We're not interested in this war stuff. We merely have security forces to protect our interests and prevent people from assaulting us. If you will note, Eugene, the Borak have never fired first. No. We have never fired first. In fact, both factions who are currently at war with us fired or did their hostile act first. Lyrans destroyed a tug and then the convoy. Carnivons took through aggressive means resources that they had previously agreed would be Borak. So, no, we have never fired first. We are merely the victims of such outrageous fortune and slings and arrows. That's right. That's all I got to say about that. Gordo, hey! Can I assume, based on how the podcaster is describing the narrative, he is supporting or playing the Borak? Oh, That is correct. So I am the Borak player in this game. One might say I'm a little biased. I don't think I'm biased. I'm just spitting truth. It's just the way it is. Yeah. Big slow target. Unfortunately, Klingon warship production has been curtailed and several fleets of F4s remain unrepaired due to budgetary cuts. Well, it's good to see that you are fiscally responsible and are currently progressing with your capital build projects. I'm sure you've got some stuff in the background that's going on. But yeah, very, very exciting. BSG is confirming, yes, I'm playing the Borak. Gordo, I like this guy. He tells a good story, very entertaining. I guess I will hang around. Gordo, thank you for hanging your hat on our outpost. The more the merrier. That's all I have to say. Space Hulk. Yes, Space Hulk. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. I mean, there was even a game in the 90s called Space Hulk. There's obviously a tabletop game. Anyways, Space Hulk. Thank you. Size Class 2 Derelict is being dragged back by the frigate, but apparently they can only tow Size Class 2 ship 1 hex per turn. So I missed meeting up with the tug. Well, that's what tugs are for, right? Let's get the tug in there and let's do some, Bravo Zuluing. The E1Ts can tow it to their next exploration location. Oh, sorry. We believe bringing it back to our capital will allow us to build a very large science vessel. The E1Ts are in the unexplored hex because the YFEL will move in next turn. Ah, I see. And then the E1Ts can tow it to their next exploration location. Oh, very interesting. So, for those who are following at home, the freighters can only move 1 hex per turn. The E1Ts are a W-era ship. They can move 3 hexes. So if they're towing the E1T, they can move faster. The E1Ts can tow the freighter and move faster than the freighter on its own. So it's a very novel way of using that. Eugene. Welcome, Gordo. Tony, the speaker, is the Borak player in this game. So the Borak are certainly presenting alternative facts. Truth. Having never done anything wrong or offensive to any other empire. Just ask. That's right. Truth, facts, information, verifiable. I just present the evidence, and you be the judge. Now, it's not my fault that Eugene is obviously somehow been swayed by some kind of truth juice, or maybe he's being... Eugene, are you okay? Are you being blackmailed? Just let me know, man. I'll be there. I'll send in a Borak strike team. We'll get you out. Just let me know. Give me a wink, a nudge, something. Let me know. Just let me know you're okay. Okay. BST, hello. What do we got? Eugene. Will there be an opportunity for the Carnivon or Lyrans to present their misguided versions of their Borak encounters? Well, if you are so inspired, inquiring with your mind, then you can also hit our coffee and Discord tier. Jump on our Discord server with our New Horizons narrative, and you can see all the vile falsehoods that they are spitting when it comes to their story as to what's going on. So if you want to see both sides of the story, the wrong side and, of course, the right side, then you can join our Coffee and Discord tier, hop on over there, and you can read for yourself what misgotten falsehoods are being spat by. Because, I mean, really, do Lyrans have good tongues? Can they speak properly? Obviously not. So, and I mean, how can they hit the keyboard with their paws? It's just ridiculous. So, yes, obviously they are crafting misguided messages all throughout that narrative, and you can read those if you head over there. Yeah, check it out. Excuse me. BST, hello, bit of an opportunity, perhaps by chat, definitely in the Discord. BSG says, that's right. Oh, geez. I feel like Voldemort is trying to grab me from beyond the grave. One sec. I'm going to blow my nose real quick.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. All right. Where are we here? Will the Borak Admiral be awarded a medal for writing the contingency orders to attack the Lyran base should the Lyrans attack the lone tug, i.e. bait? Was he a student of any legendary E1 captain? Ooh! So for those of you who are with us for the long term, Eugene is making reference to the previous game where a legendary captain of a E1 frigate was eventually through and it's funny the circumstances. Okay, so in that game, the Klingons were engaged in a war with their neighbor, the Romulans. Now, to be fair, the Klingons were the aggressor, totally belligerent in that case. You know, it was all Klingons. However, the Carnivon backstabbed the Klingons after previously having a good relationship and you know, sorting things out. The Carnivon backstabbed the Klingons, jumping the border, claiming territory, taking planets from the Klingons. A legendary E1 captain was able to pin and prevent certain Carnivon attacks, and as a result, buy the Klingons some time. This legendary E1 captain was later awarded command of a command cruiser and then eventually a dreadnought, and led retaliatory efforts against the Romulans in the Second Romulan-Klingon War, which unfortunately led to the Klingon downfall because I got three-peated by the Romulans, the ISC, and the Tholians. But nonetheless, that E1 captain was legendary, performed heroic acts. In fact, novels were written about... I mean, Horatio Hornblower has nothing on this E1 captain. Truly phenomenal works of, not fiction, fact, that were truly inspirational. So Eugene is making reference to these historical documents, maybe alternative universe, but regardless, historical documents that might have been learning material at the academy for this particular senior officer who planned the contingency orders in the face of Lyran aggression. Possibly. Who knows? Right. Probably not. I'm bad. I'm a bad doggo. Gordo, thanks. I guess the Borak were the antagonists in this situation. What? What are you talking about? I'm no antagonist. Oh my God. By the way, he was laying out the situation, but makes for entertaining storytelling. Go Lyrans. I'm rooting for you. Gordo, I liked you. I did. Yeah, to be fair, the Lyrans and the Carnivon, we'll get to what they're doing in a second, but the Lyrans and the Carnivon, like this whatever they're planning and organizing and their alliance or whatever it is, it's well executed, incredibly irritating from my perspective, but I mean, very opportunistic, and I'd be doing the exact same thing. Where we are. Gordo, you just made my day. Oh, Gordo. BST might get a DN or BB. I heard someone by the name of Alpha was holding him hostage. Oh my God. Alpha being the leader of the Klingons in the previous game. BSG, Tony, I'm surprised you didn't catch the Klingons here. Had an odd E1T captain. Beamed from the bridge directly to command of BG Apocalypse before dropping the hammer on the Gorn. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you. Transmissions were in the New Horizons narrative. I might have missed it. I apologize. Okay, so that's where we're at with the chat. Let's jump back in and let's talk about we'll do the Kzinti, the Federation. We'll do the bottom row of the Tholians, Paravians, and Hydrans, and then we'll round out talking about the Lyrans, then the Borak, and finally the Carnivon. Let's jump in. There we go. Let's jump in, and we'll start with our friends in green, the Hydrans. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder to those of you who are following us at home, I will move my head to the other side so it makes it a little bit easier to see this as I zoom out and show you the big picture map. Okay, So once again, this is a big picture map. You can see on the bottom here, there is the Hydrans, the Kentucky Fried Chicken Paravians in the bottom center, the Hard Rock Tholians on the bottom left, Baby Blue Federation right here, the Kzinti in white and black, the Lyrans with their lima bean exploration pattern, the Borak in their trifecta about to get stomped, the ISC in the top right, Klingons top left, and the Carnivon, the barbarians from the north. Okay, so let's go to the Hydrans, zoom in, boop, 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 and I'll move my head again, and let's talk about what's going on here. So not too much, excuse me, we'll bring back the ship so it's a little bit easier to see what's going on. Not much is changing here, but the big things I would say to focus on is, obviously we have an unknown derelict in the bottom of their space. We'll see what happens. Perhaps Silver Fleet, Hydran Metal Fleet, Silver. Oh, is it a shiny fleet? It's a shiny fleet, I bet. Hydran Shiny Fleet. There we go. Silver Fleet is a CC Vol and an RD team. So that's being dispatched very much to be able to intercept the derelict, perhaps the Space Hulk. And we'll see what happens. So they're heading that way to figure that out. All these other fleets essentially are all exploration ships with an escort. So survey ships with an escort. Excuse me. You can see here the tug, if I take away the ships real quick, building a YBS on the border. So they had just recently established this border neutral zone between the Paravians and the Hydrans. And they are currently, it looks like, establishing bases and infrastructure along this neutral zone. Understandable, to be able to prepare themselves for the eventual Kentucky Fried Chicken approach. So derelict, base building. We can see that they've got the discovery of now the friendly Gorn in the right side. Still working well with the Happy Plus Remans in the south of their territory with that trade route established. And as we go up here, Voldemort just won't let me go. What's going on? And then we've got, well, let's see, Second Fleet. I'm assuming, you know what they say about assumptions. I'm assuming Second Fleet is. So we got a cruiser, which is the GRN, the Grenadier, with an escort YDD and a prime team. So the Hydrans are doing what the Borak and the Carnivons before them did, which is explore with cruisers. So you've got that going north. You got Nickel and Neon. Where are we? Hydran. Noble Fleets. Neon is a survey ship. You see the WSR. W-era survey ship with a prime team and an escort. And then that was Neon. And Nickel is probably in the Shiny Fleet. Shiny? No. It's not Shiny, isn't it? Metal Fleets, obviously. Okay, Nickel. So we got a Y-era survey ship with a prime team and an escort. So those are just more survey ships doing their thing. And again, we got a base here. Tug is finishing up construction. It looks like it's already finished construction. Yeah, finished construction of this base. And I'm sure we'll be moving up and further pushing that going north. So very interesting. They are in their exploration phase. Exploration and expansion of their borders. 2 of our 4 X's in this game. Let's slide over and look at our Kentucky Fried Chicken faction. There we are, of the Paravians. Now, one of the big things about the Paravians was their small fleet size, right? Well, they have fantastic, especially in the Y era, they have great ships because their tug is the same as their cruiser, of course, with all the benefits of being a tug. So the tug has 4-6 attack and defense factors. The cruiser has a 4-6 attack and defense factors. Those are good cruisers in this era. For example, the GRN, which is the cruiser for the Hydrans, is a 3-6. And the Carnivon, for example, is a 3-6. So they've got good attack, good defense, and with the tug, I mean, the Borak tug, by example, is a 2-6. Other factions have a 1-5 or a 1-6. I think the Klingons is a 1-5 in the Y era anyway. But the Paravians have the 4-6. So they have battle tugs and they have fantastic stuff. It's really good. So they're building out their fleets, obviously. You can see here Eagle Fleet is in preparatory stance with this Reman faction is hateful, hostile, not liking what's going on with the Paravians. So this Eagle fleet is sitting here waiting. I don't know if they are going to plan a full-on attack. Eagle fleet, you can see here, is a total of 3 cruisers and 8 frigates. So I don't know that that's going to be enough to take on this 4 planetary ground bases, a YDK, and solar fleet. So let's look at what solar fleet is. On the Riemann side, solar fleet is it's definitely not going to be enough. So it is a dreadnought with a command cruiser, a single cruiser, 3 destroyers, 6 frigates, and then a convoy. So I think the Paravians are going to need a couple more ships before they attack Solar, but they're very much going to get there at some point soon. We'll just have to see what it is that they do. Note the captured ISC frigate that obviously it came through this wormhole and is, there's diplomatic interaction there. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. We've got this cruiser with a prime team. Not sure what they're doing there. A Vudar faction here, Happy Plus. So obviously there's a diplomat there with the frigate, making everybody happy with this minor planet. If they get that, that's an extra 3 EP for the Paravians if they bring them on side. And again, just the Paravians doing their thing, not particularly militarily robust, but I keep saying this, the Paravian player is a crafty guy. Watch out. All right, heavy metal rock faction in the bottom left corner. Always entertaining, Del. We've got survey ships continuing to push out on the borders. We've got Home Fleet sitting here with a base on the Echo wormhole, and I don't believe the Echo wormhole has been transited. So, qu'est-ce qui arrive? We've got the Juliet wormhole, which we've talked about with the Klingons, and then not much else going on. We do have the Cloud, which is like a monster in their backfield, but nothing's going on with the monster. No action has been taken to engage the Cloud. So either to find out what it is, how to hit it, whatever's going on, we'll figure that out. E1T, interesting that there is a Klingon E1T sitting on a base. That would imply that there's some kind of friendly exchange going on between the Tholians and the Klingons. I'll be very curious. If it's repaired and goes back through the wormhole, what does that mean? We'll have to see. We will have to see. Yes. Okay. Let's scroll up to my good friends, the Kzinti. So, whereas a couple turns ago, the Kzinti were ready to unleash hellfire on the Federation, now they are exchanging, as you can see here, a commercial convoy on its way to land on this YDK, and there will be a trade route, I imagine, next turn. Other than that, continued exploration down to the border. You can see that off in this little... They're working their way to the corner here as fast as they can, and then they'll fill out this space on the border, and of course pushing up to the border with the border with the Lyrans. We'll see how that works, and they've got unfriendly Gorn, which to be fair, Gorn in this game are pretty much unfriendly all the way around, and then we've got a friendly Vudar. I like the Vudar. They seem to be, relatively speaking, good minor factions that we can all get along with. We've got a gravity well, but I haven't seen anything happen with this gravity well. So was this a wormhole before? I'm curious. I feel like it was, and it's transformed into a gravity well. Gravity wells, by the way, being a one-way wormhole. With the iconography here, we can see that this is an innie in the sense that you can enter this and it will spit you out somewhere, as opposed to an outie, which spits you out and nowhere to go. So we'll see where this goes and how this sort of works its way out. Slide my head to the other side as we scroll over to the Federation. We can see, the Federation here, many of its minor factions, the Vudar are unhappy with the Federation, which is unfortunate. The Gorn, however, are very pleasantly surprised by the Federation, noting there's no diplomat here, so perhaps I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but we can see a commercial convoy is on its way to Wadi Eb. Once that trade route is established, how will that or will that not change the relationship with the Gorn? Who knows? We'll see. As we go down a little bit further, we can see that the Federation is exploring more aggressively into their eastern reaches, perhaps to cut off the Hydrans from coming up the side. We've got a Romulan faction here, who is very hostile to all things Federation. Federation hasn't really done anything about that, except I will note there is a dreadnought here with a prime team, and I guess home fleet is nearby. Let's take a look at Federation home fleet. What's in it? Okay, here we go. Command cruiser, a Vulcan scout from the Y era. Interesting. 6 light cruisers. That's pretty heavy hitting. And 5 frigates. So this is more than enough to do something. The question is Romulan Imperial fleet going to be able to hold them off? Let's take a look. Let's scroll down to the bottom. We've got Imperial fleet. So we've got a this faction has a dreadnought, cruiser, 2 of them, 6 destroyers and 4 frigates. So not crazy, but not, massive. 2 planetary ground bases and a YDK. So that's more than enough to be able to hold off, I think, this fleet. But certainly those fleets will be able to do an initial assault, do some damage, retreat, do some repair wherever they are going to get repair. I don't see any YDKs in this area. Let's take away the ships real quick. Oh, there's a YDK right there. Okay. So they can roll in 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe they'll go to the YDK and then attack, and then they can retro to these, these 2 YDKs for repair, and then do another attack. So maybe it'll be a conflict of attrition as they slowly work their way into taking out these guys, assuming that's what the Federation will do. Because after all, the boys in blue are all friendly, right? That's what the press says about them. We'll see if that holds true as we go forward. Okay, so we got the Fédération, we got the Kzinti. Now let's roll up into, oh yes, the Lyrans. All right, so interesting to note with the Lyrans, we've got a dragon, and it was quite amusing. So for those of you who don't, when you look at all the names for fleets for the Borak, they're all dragons, which is interesting. For example, we got Takisa's fleet, black dragon, blue dragon, red dragon, green dragon, white dragon. It feels like it's something straight out of Dragonlance. So the Borak are dragon fleets, right? And then a monster appears after the Lyrans have declared war on the Borak. A dragon appears in the bottom of their territory, and it just happens to be a dragon. Now, that's just a counter. It's not actually a space dragon. We'll find out what it is once and if the Lyrans send a ship there to identify it. And once they identify it, then we'll figure out what it is. And I'm sure Chuck, who's playing the Lyrans, can tell us what it is and what's going on. But it's just a counter at this point. But it's quite funny because in our Discord chat and the narrative chat, there's a lot of interesting banter about the fact that it just happens to be a dragon. So is this a Borak, secret operation, or I don't know, mercenary force, whatever. It's just funny, the association with the Borak with this dragon, yada, yada, yada. I think that's funny. But not knowing what the dragon is, assuming it's a big baddie, if we take away the ships real quick, you can see that there's a base that's being finished next turn. I think it's next turn here, and the dragon is right next to it. So if the dragon does move, and granted, it's all based on the dice roll, if the dragon does move towards this and attacks it, it'll be very interesting because the only thing that's in that hex is the tug. Now, if the tug has completed the base by the time it moves in, then it'll be interesting to see what happens. But who knows? We'll have to see. Other than that, they don't really have anything else in the area. I mean, they got a couple of YSRs, which will be good if they want to identify what the dragon is, because they've got, sensors and all that stuff. But they won't be able to necessarily fight it because the Lyrans have put the majority of their military assets on the border with the Borak. But before we go back to those wonderful folks, we'll scroll along the bottom here. You notice no ships along the bottom. We've got Apex Fleet floating here on the west side. And let's just take a quick look at Lyran Apex Fleet, if I can find it. Where are you, Apex? Am I missing? There we are, Apex. So Apex Fleet is a CA, CL, and a DD. So nothing too crazy, but just something to kind of make sure that nothing comes out of the woodwork and jumps anybody. We've also got a DD with a diplomat trying to improve planetary attitude on this planet. Convoy probably going to build a base, I'm going to guess, pretty soon. And a WSR continuing to explore in this neck of the woods. If we look up to the north, you can see there's a high concentration of survey assets. So we've got small survey freighters and a bunch of survey ships exploring the space up here. If we take away the ships real quick, you can see bases being completed and bases in the area to facilitate exploration. Obviously, this is due to the pressure being applied by the Klingons exploring into this neck of the woods, and we will see what happens. So, concentration of ships in the north, not much in the west, nothing really in the south, and all of it right here on the border with the Borak. Now, if we go to the capital real quick, let's look at Foremost Fleet. So, Lyran... Foremost Fleet. We've got a cruiser, a destroyer, and a frigate. 1, 2, 3. Sitting here on X-25. So that's the capital. Nothing too crazy here. Just a little fleet, all things considered. We've got a convoy. Oh, a commercial convoy that's heading over to the Gorn. Interesting. They've already got a trade route. I'm interested to see what benefit that will provide, other than you can't have a second trade route. So I'll be curious to know what that's all about. You can see here a bunch of ships on their way to bases here. So we've got a tug with 3 frigates and a light cruiser. You can see here this is a YDK with a ground assault freighter. So it's basically got 4 G factors, or like ground troops. Now, originally when this was brought over here, the assumption was they were going to use this to attack the Romulans. And that's, I think, what was going to happen. But then things sort of shifted as the Lyrans decided to attack the Borak. So what do they have in this neck of the woods? They've got 3 YFFs and 2 light cruisers. So 4 frigates and 2 light cruisers protecting their supply towards their ship and the building that's going on here. In this hex, you've got the YBS under construction, a tug, a frigate, and home fleet. Home fleet is not anything to sneeze at. Let's take a quick look at it. It is a heavy dreadnought, 4 cruisers, heavy cruisers, 5 light cruisers, 8 destroyers, and 2 frigates. So 20 ships total. It's a lot. And of course, they're building the YBS. And on the other side, they've also got, just for S&Gs, they've got 2 destroyers and a light cruiser just sitting here. That's what popped my my civilian convoy. Right. So that is what's going on here. So this base that's under construction will complete next turn, I think. Yeah, it will complete next turn. Oh, so next turn is this turn that's happening right now is 96 spring for 61. So it looks like this base is already complete, the one in the south. So that's good. But this 96 fall will complete not 61, but will complete at the end of, or at the start of 62. So that's what that's looking like. And then, of course, once that base is complete, they'll have supply. Assuming they have 4 supply. Why do I think 4 supply? Because this isn't complete yet, and this is where their nearest base is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If these ships are in supply, and I'm assuming they are, because you wouldn't just leave these hanging out here if they weren't, unless you were bluffing. I'm assuming 4 supply. So if he has 4 supply and he has a base here, 1, 2, 3, 4, he can reach into Borak territory and attack all the bases that sort of I have in this neck of the woods. Also, with 4 supply, he can start grabbing some of, if he gets through me, he can grab some of the resources there, which I'm sure is the plan. So, as was mentioned, the Lyrans and the Borak are relatively equally balanced, so to speak. So we'll see what happens as we go forward. Right. So let's look at the Borak real quick. We've got Red Fleet. So where's Borak? Borak. Red Fleet. So one of the things about the Borak fleet composition is that Our frigates and destroyers suck. They have 1 attack and 1.5 attack for the destroyers, and reasonable defense factors. But they're just not really good offensively capable ships. So the strategy had been, up until now, build cruisers. Build as many cruisers whenever you can, because basically the cruiser fleet is the way to go. Our cruisers for the Borak are relatively good. They are 4-6 ships in the Y era. That's a pretty good cruiser. So build as many as you can. So you can see here there's a command cruiser, and there is a total of 7 cruisers sitting on this hex with the base. And then there is 3 frigates in Red Fleet. In addition, there's another 4 frigates sort of randomly sitting on the hex as well. So there's a total of 7 frigates, 7 cruisers, 15 ships, plus the YDK obviously sitting there. So that's a pretty good number. A couple frigates sitting here in the background on this YDK here, and then you got green and white fleet in the area. So let's take a look at green fleet. So the green fleet is why is that useful? Because they've got a previously purchased Romulan Vulture dreadnought. So it's a great dreadnought. It's a 7-8. It's the second best dreadnought in the game. 7 attack, 8 defense. Why is that so great? Because if you remember, Lyran Home Fleet, if we look at Lyran Home Fleet, they have a 6-8 heavy dreadnought. So slightly better dreadnought than the Lyran one. It is what it is. Command cruiser, frigate, prime team, making its way, join the party. Of course, you got some other ships heading in the background. And then there's White Dragon Fleet, which is just a bunch of frigates, basically. Where are you? White Dragon. It's just 4 frigates. Whoops, you can't see that. My head's in the way. So it's just 4 frigates making its way down there. So we got a whole bunch of stuff in this neck of the woods, which makes it just harder to make progress. But the Lyrans looking, I would imagine, at this Mexican standoff, where the Lyran forces and the Borak forces are very comparable. They are relatively equal. Who knows which way the battles would go between them, depending on the circumstances and how the dice roll. Who knows? But when facing such equal odds as this, what do? Well, you have to upend the apple cart and make things more exciting. So bring on the Carnivon. Here we go. So the Carnivon, again, largest military in the game. What do they bring into the net? What do they bring into this fight? Well, again, I'll take it with the ships real quick so we can see what's going on. We have a base under construction right here to facilitate initially exploration in accordance with our previous agreement with the Carnivon before they declared war on us. So we've got exploration stuff happening up here. And again, the Borak were copying the Carnivon with exploring with cruisers because survey ships are so expensive. They cost basically 10 EP plus a prime team on it, which is like 13 EP total, versus build a cruiser, which is 6 EP plus a prime team that's like 9. You're saving quite a bit of money. And of course, you have a combat capable ship should things go sideways. So the Carnivon had been doing that, and they have been and are very successful. And so the Borak were basically saying, hey, that worked for them. Let's try that too. So we were doing the exact same thing. You can see you've got a bunch of command cruisers in this area and cruisers doing the exact same thing. But the Carnivon have come in, and what do they have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 heavy cruisers and a light cruiser sitting on this hex with a tug. You've got Home Fleet, Wolfpack 2, and 5. So let's look at Wolfpack. The Wolfpacks. So Wolfpack 2 and 5. 2 is this one right here. 6 frigates, 1 destroyer, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, and a command cruiser. Note their command cruiser is only a 3 attack, but a 7 defense. Right? 3 attack, 7 defense. And note all the ships that have the N. The N is the heel nipper, which is the special weapon for the Carnivon. And basically what that means is with a high enough BUR, or battle intensity rating, for each N that you have in a battle force, each N equals 1 point of directed damage that they can do 1-to-1 against a target. So it just means that they can, assuming the battle intensity rating is high enough, they can direct damage various things. And I think the battle intensity requirement is 6 or higher. So if you have two factions that have, well, if the battle intensity rating for the fight is above 6 or above, then then they can use the heel nipper and basically do direct damage at 1-to-1 against the target of their choice. Yeah, it's bad. So anyways, they've got Wolfpack 2 and Wolfpack 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A destroyer and 10 frigates. So 10 frigates, 11 with the destroyer, plus another 6, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 ships. Just in those. So that's 21 ships plus, oh my God, plus the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 4 cruisers and a light cruiser. 26 ships, not including the tug, sitting right here on this resource. Then they've got 2 more cruisers and a frigate up here. And then on top here, we have a frigate, drone bombardment cruiser, frigate, heavy cruiser, light cruiser. I won't include the crippled ships because, well, there's only 2 crippled frigates, but then another destroyer, a command cruiser, a drone bombardment destroyer, another destroyer, another destroyer. Like, there's a lot going on here. And then they've got more ships coming down. 1, 2, 3 cruisers and a tug, survey ship. I mean, they just got so much stuff heading down, and there's 21 ships here. And then they've got Wolfpack 6, which is, what is this? Wolfpack 6. So you've got drone bombardment and another 5 frigates. Long story short, this is the opposite of Gandalf cresting the hill, saving Helm's Deep. No, this is the opposite of that. This is the orc horde coming, rampaging through the forest, seeking out Frodo and Sam. This is crazy. So I don't have, the Borak certainly don't have enough ships, period. Because keep in mind, total of 48 ships in our fleet, total. So we've got 30 odd ships on the Lyran front, probably over around that amount on the Carnivon front. That's 60 odd ships coming from the like 30 on the top, 30 on the bottom, and I only have 48 total. So this is going to be a very, very, very difficult couple of turns as I figure out what in the hell is the strategy to be able to deal with this, because I would say there is even a good chance this may be the existential end of the Borak, or the beginnings of, because if taken to its logical conclusion, the Lyrans prosecute the war, and why wouldn't they prosecute the war and push into me, while the Carnivons like just cascade down and just take what they want, I'm going to lose ground economically and militarily turn after turn after turn, because I can't stop the Carnivon. I don't have enough to stop both, maybe one, but not both. So the Carnivon are going to come south. We'll just see how far they want to go and can go, because I can't stop them. The Lyrans, let's say I do stop them, but I hold the ground with them. Like, I can just hold the line. At what point can I possibly hold out? And because of, and I'll take away the ships real quick. So if you look, I'll zoom out just to make it easier to see. So if you look at the Borak sort of concentration, let's take away the bases as well. So if you look at the concentration of Borak stuff, the largest proportional concentration of economic resources is in this pocket. This is the pocket that will be lost to the Lyrans and the Carnivon respectively. And so if I lose this pocket, there's no path forward. Or like, there's no path forward. It is, the Borak will, like, if the Carnivon and the Lyrans are going to push so far that they take this, they are so close to the capital, why not just go the rest of the way? especially when they will hold such a proportional advantage. And for the Lyrans, they don't have any other factions pushing in on their borders. So this is logically the conclusion. This is the logical conclusion to their attack. Just go all the way and take out the Borak. Because if they do that, then they can basically take the majority, if not all of, whatever the Carnivon haven't already taken. They can take all of the territory that the Borak have, which is a huge economic gain for the Lyrans. Lyrans go from being, a reasonable marginal power, just like many of us are, to being one of the top tier players economically. On the same note, the Carnivon probably don't want to sit back and let the Lyrans just do that, so there'll be this competition between them as they both compete and or perhaps negotiate some kind of resolution to taking the territory from the Borak. So who takes the capital? Who knows? Who takes this resource versus that resource? I take north of this line, you take south of this line. Whatever the case is, they're both going to tussle back and forth and compete or collaborate on how they're going to take all of it. If I'm the Carnivon and the Lyrans, this war is an all or nothing war. If you're going to do it, and granted, you can adjust your plan as you go, but if you're going to do it, go the distance and take the Borak out. It is well worth it to take the Borak out and reap the benefits of that economically than just sit back and, let the Borak sort of putter along. There's always the chance that the Borak can come back in some way. Don't give them that chance. Take them out. So yeah, that's the way it is. Like I say, at the end of the day, it's
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
what are you going to do? All right. So that's the game as I see it. Let's slide back and discuss. All right, let's talk about the chat. What's going on here? Okay, so what we got? Eugene. We talked about the Admiral and the E1T historic, the history books about that E1T Admiral. Gordo. Let's go Thundercats. Your territory looks like Australia. Time to put a few dragons on the Barbie and break out Foster's beer. Yeah. Remember to invite some friends to your party. Oh, my goodness. There are political reasons not to go all the way. Everybody else would see that as a threat. That's true. You're absolutely right. So, for example, Big Slow Target is making a very astute argument, which is if the Lyrans and the Carnivon go all in on the Borak, then it becomes the other factions in the game would see that as a threat because those factions, the Carnivon and the Lyrans, will become so disproportionately powerful relative to where they were before, then it's threatening. Sure, except that probably, and we'll see how it evolves over time, but there's no one that can move against the Lyrans, period. The only faction that currently borders them in free space is the Borak. The Klingons are close, but they haven't actually crossed the unexplored threshold. The Carnivon are too far away and are working with and are allied with the Lyrans. The Federation, I guess, could, but at this point they're not really interested in getting involved. They don't have ship and fleet assets or military designed in such a way that they could invade the Lyrans. The Kzinti don't seem to be oriented in that way. And of course, everybody on the south can't do anything about it one way or the other. So the only factions that could be involved in this discussion would be the ISC, which, we'll see what happens with the ISC and what they can mount. But if I'm the Carnivon, I'm not necessarily as worried about the ISC because currently their military orientation is no better than the Borak, and they don't have the reach to realistically threaten the Carnivon. The Carnivon, with the second largest economy at 95, can start building ships like bananas right now, and without having to redistribute any of their current fleet, can just push all their new builds to the border with the ISC and hold them at bay as they continue to bulldoze the Borak, because they have numerical superiority without a doubt. They have the allies working with the Lyrans like crazy. So the both of them are. It's going to be a blood show. So the ISC don't have the weight to be able to do anything in the short term. No one else is bordering the Lyrans. The only other faction that borders either one of those factions is the Klingons. And here we have Big Slow Target playing the Klingons saying, so negotiate at maximum speed then. For those of you who are not part of our Discord channel, you would not have seen or know about this. However, the Borak have been, from time immemorial at this point, have been aggressively trying to get the Lyrans to engage in negotiation. There have been, at this point, double-digit proposals, like numbers of proposals, to try and determine a border or come to some agreement or something. Even before we made contact with the Lyrans, we talked about a border. And each and every time, there were one of two responses. One is total radio silence and no response, which was the initial sort of position. And then the second was sort of quote unquote unreasonable requests and expectations, or unreasonable demands, I should say, about what territory they would get. And leading up to this turn, the reason why I contextualize them as unreasonable is because for example, the requests were, I could show you the maps on, perhaps we'll do a session where we'll talk about negotiation strategy with the Lyrans. But all the requests were asking for more than was reasonable considering the disposition of what was going on. Now, perhaps all those negotiations and or demands were being made in the background, knowing that the Carnivons were allied with the Lyrans, and so they were, from their perspective, the Lyrans, that is, they were in a position of strength. They didn't need to negotiate with the Borak because they would provoke the Borak into a conflict, bring the Carnivon in, and crush the Borak overall. So perhaps it was a diplomatic, strategic play to facilitate that, and if that was the case, bravo. But regardless, the negotiating position of the Lyrans was either radio silence and no agreement, or demands and declarations that could not reasonably be agreed to, thereby drawing or forcing to some degree this conflict. Now, that being said, the Borak are not completely innocent in this either, because the Borak, through the entire thing, were being, I don't want to say aggressive in the sense that we weren't aggressively saying, give me all this territory, but rather being quite pushy with regards to the Romulans specifically. The whole thing was, we want to establish a trade with the Romulans. We don't want you to take out the Romulans. Leave the Romulans be, so to speak. And the Lyrans, this was like a breaking point or line in the sand for them. They were going to take the Romulans one way or the other, and the Borak getting involved in that was like, you're involving yourself in our internal affairs. Bug off. And the Borak were like, but they're independent people. What are you talking about? So this back and forth sort of set the tone for the negotiations, or at the point at which there was actual back and forth, set the tone for those negotiations. Because again, if the Lyrans knew they had the Carnivon's backing, why would they ever agree to anything the Borak was saying? Why would they need to give up anything? And in fact, it is to their advantage to go to war with the Borak, because they will benefit from a war economy for a period of time, allowing them to be able to build out their infrastructure and their fleet. The war will allow the Carnivon to jump in, and an opportunity to potentially wipe out the Borak, thereby accelerating their economy, growing their economy, not only because of war status, but because all the extra resources they'll get because of two double teaming the Borak. The Borak will not be able to hold off the Carnivon and the Lyrans. If the Lyrans and the Borak are equal, and the Carnivon are like, the Borak and the Lyrans combined, there's no way the Borak can hold off both factions at the same time. So regardless of what happens here, either one of two things. The Lyrans have crafted and played this diplomatic game beautifully, because they lured the Borak into a diplomatic position that provoked a conflict that they knew they would win because their ally would jump in on their side. ally being the Carnivon. And even if, like in the short term, they'll be able to gain a handful, possibly double-digit EP in the conflict, be at war status and have full 100% economy versus the 50% economy of peace, and then of course there's potential of just wiping out the Borak completely. Huge advantage if I'm the Lyrans. That's a win, because I can hold my own. If I'm the Lyrans, I can probably hold my own against the Borak. But as soon as the Carnivon come in on my side, it's all over but the crying. The only thing that would balance this out and potentially force a peace deal is if the factions that surround the Carnivon were to lend their weight to a resolution. Now, what would that involve? I would argue if there was an interest or an intent to maintain status quo, in the sense of like, let's just draw a border based on where everybody is, then you could have the ISC, the Borak, the Lyrans, the Klingons, and the Carnivon all engage in a mutual discussion where it'd be like, okay, let's draw the borders here. And basically, the Carnivons and Lyrans on one side of the table, the Borak and the ISC on the other. Maybe the Klingons is like a mediator. I don't know. But they work that out. And why would they do that? Why would the Klingons, who are currently not involved in any of this, why would they even be interested in that? Because, this is my argument, because if the Lyrans and the Carnivons are successful, as Big Slow Target pointed out, if they are successful in their blitzkrieg attack on the Borak, their sudden and proportional economic and military growth relative to the Klingons, because the Klingons right now are number one in every, yes, their military is comparable to the Carnivons, but their economy is bigger. They're expanding and have a bigger footprint. At this point, I think it's fair to say the Klingons are in the number one position. That number one position will be threatened in the short term by this war, because the Carnivon will gain territory and EP and probably exceed the Klingon economy. Because they're at war status, they'll be able to build more ships and have more resources to build out their military. Their military will become bigger than the Klingons. And at the same time, the Lyrans will be becoming more robust and becoming a harder target for the Klingons. And those are the only two neighbors that the Klingons really have. Yes, they've got the Tholians through the wormhole, but the two bordering nations that the Klingons have would become stronger as a result. So if the Klingons are interested in keeping their relative strength to their neighbors, there is an interest in facilitating a peace deal, or at least avoiding a conflict in some way, shape, or form. Okay. But I see lots of chat here. Let's jump in. Okay, so so going back to what Big Slow Target said, which there are political reasons not to go all the way. Everybody else would see them as a threat. So negotiate at maximum speed then, Big Slow Target says. And so I responded, indicating that the Borak have been very aggressive in their attempt to negotiate without as much return on investment, shall we say, on how that goes. So, where we are. So then Devin Dean says, seems those requests may have been more reasonable now. More reasonably. Yeah. Again, with the Lyrans, if the Lyrans from the start of negotiations were in a position where they knew the Carnivons were their ally, which in hindsight, this seems way more plausible. This explains everything, arguably. If the Lyrans knew that the Carnivons were going to be their ally and were going to back them up no matter what happened, then they can be intransigent and overplay their hand and be unreasonable and demanding, because they know that if the Borak start a fight with them, or they get into a fight with the Borak, the Carnivons will just come south and mess them up. Okay, no problem. I get it. The challenge, though, is that, as was sort of mentioned, what happens if the war gets out of hand and they're going to steamroll the Borak? Will other factions get involved? Or will they get preemptively involved and try and neuter it before the war goes too far? We'll see. Gordo, can the Borak, Lyran, and ISC hope to stand up against the Carnivon and the Klingons? Well, so this was an argument that was made earlier on, which was if the way the map is distributed, there's 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, and 4 in the middle. And if the 4 in the middle started fighting amongst themselves, it's all over but the crying, because the Carnivon being on the top, the Carnivon and the Klingon being the 2 most powerful factions at this point, being on the top, they've got no factions bordering them on the north for both factions, and for the Klingons on the north or the west. So the Klingons only have 2 neighbors to worry about, the Carnivon and the Lyrans, arguably. The Borak have Carnivon, Lyran, ISC, Federation to deal with, and depending on what, that's four neighbors. The Lyrans have the Borak, the Carnivon, the Klingons, the ISC, or the not the ISC, the Kzinti, and the Federation. They got 5 neighbors. And then, of course, the Kzinti and the Federation, same thing. So if the factions in the middle didn't come together in some way, shape, or form, they're going to get eaten alive by the folks on the exterior. And that's arguably that we're seeing something like that now, in the sense that the Borak are not aligned in a way that allows them to work collaboratively with the Lyrans and the Federation and the Kzinti. They currently have an agreement with the ISC, but there's only one neighbor. And they're at war, obviously, with the Lyrans and now the Carnivon. So without having, like, if the Lyrans were currently bordering the Carnivon, and let's say it was the other way around, in the sense that the Lyrans and the Borak were allied, and the Carnivons were trying to be pushy with one of us, and the Lyrans and the Borak, and let's say the ISC, decided to fight back against the Carnivon, that's a much more even fight. Not only from a fleet cap perspective, like essentially 50 ships for the Lyrans, 50 ships for the Borak, and something close to that for the ISC, 150 ships versus the 100 and we'll call it, well, it's 112, but let's say it was 120 of the Carnivon. That's a more reasonable fight. Granted, a little more advantageous for the 3 versus the 1, but you know, there's an ability to defend yourself and sort of have a deterrent. Oh, big slow target. I'm going to take a quick sip. And ladies and gentlemen, that hits us to our goal. Bam! Thank you very much. 4 coffees for today, hitting our goal. Merci beaucoup. Okay, so yeah, these factions and sort of the situation we're in. Let's read here. Gordo, if that happened, then yes, I think so. The Carnivons and the Klingons are powerful, but to the level of win a 2-on-3 war powerful, not going to happen though. Let's try that again. The Carnivons and the Klingons are powerful, but to the level to win a 2-on-3 war powerful, not going to happen though. See, I don't know. I mean, it depends. It depends on how it all breaks down, but I think I don't think the Carnivon could take on 3 factions, but they can definitely take on 2 factions. Same thing with the Klingons. Obviously, it's the other way around. The Borak are fighting off 2 factions, and that's not going to work out very well for them. The Borak, that is. So we'll see how that goes. Lost Muskrat. The Lyrans did not come to the Carnivon until they decided to destroy the Borak tug. That's the point where the Carnivon decided to enter the war. I just want to... What? The Lyrans did not come to the Carnivon until they decided to destroy the Borak tug. So the Lyrans went to the Carnivon at the point that they had decided to declare war on the Borak. That's the point where the Carnivon decided to enter the war. So the Lyrans declare war on the Borak. Again, they shoot first. And at that point, the Carnivons decide to get in on the war. Okay. It doesn't really change much in the sense that... it still creates an environment where the Lyrans can maintain their, shall we say, stubborn stance with the confidence knowing that the Carnivon are going to back them. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. Big slow target. Rather not on a level to win a 2-on-3 war level powerful is what I meant. So you think the Klingons, big slow target, you think the Klingons and the Carnivon would not be able to take on 3 other factions with their 2? Interesting. I feel like you're not giving yourself enough credit. Based on the size of your military and economies, I think you could. We'll see. Lost Muskrat. The Lyrans could not have known the Carnivon would intervene before that moment. This conflict feels more like an accidental train collision than a planned series of events. Okay, let's run with Lost Muskrat's framing. If this is an accident, for all intents and purposes, and the escalation is sort of like an out-of-control incident, then how do we get control back on it, or how do we drive things back? So obviously the Borak are interested or motivated to do that because based on what at least I, as a Borak player, when I look at what's going on, this is a steamroller that's going to crush, kill, and destroy everything that is the Borak. So there is a vested interest to be able to stop this rolling boulder that is going to crush all of us, or crush all the Borak. So how do we de-escalate this? Well, I propose that this would require the introduction of the only other faction in the neighborhood that can have any weight on what's going on, which would be the Klingons weighing in to get the Carnivon to back out. So either we have a facilitated peace between the Lyrans and the Borak that allows everybody to be copacetic. Because again, at this point, the Lyrans are the Lyrans and at this point the Carnivon are the only ones that have really been attacking anybody. The Borak retaliated to the tug attack. They've had their tug destroyed and a convoy destroyed, but haven't initiated any attacks without being attacked first. The Carnivon have declared war and taken resources from the Borak. So the Borak are not the aggressor here. From a purely militaristic perspective, the Borak haven't done anything to warrant use of force. So how do we facilitate an agreement between Lyrans and Carnivon and everyone involved that allows the use of force to be de-escalated and get to a point where we can negotiate? Because if one argument that's been made is that the exploration that the Borak have been doing is considered aggressive, which is interesting because that's where everybody's at as far as exploration. And you're exploring out to meet your neighbors because that's logical in the sense of you're reaching out to encounter your neighbors to set sort of like the line in the sand of where your borders are going to be. But from the perspective, at least the interpretation that I'm having from what's going on here, is that the interpretation of that expansion from the Borak, the Lyrans are seeing it as aggressive. The Carnivons are supporting that perspective as it being aggressive. So and purely because expanding towards those neighbors versus exploring the back end of their space, I find that interesting. Anyways, one more question and then we'll carry on for the day. So Eugene says, if I recall, the Lyrans declared war in the live stream of 2 weeks ago. It was after that when the Lyrans attacked the tug. But the contingency orders were written before war declared, correct? No. Well, I mean, yes, but contingency orders, the attack would never have occurred unless we were attacked. So the turn was not processed. So logistically and timeline-wise, okay. So we get the turn back on the Friday or the Thursday, something like that. The live stream happens on the Saturday. And then I amend or write the contingency orders on the weekend so that when the turn is processed at the beginning part of the following week, then go forward. So if you're following the train of thought or the thought process and the timeline, you get the turn back. And I can't remember if I initially sort of did my turn as soon as I got it, or maybe I did it following the live stream. But we get the turn back on the Thursday, let's say Thursday evening, or maybe Friday at some point. We do the live stream on the Saturday. And then at that point, the hostility heats up. And then at some point during the weekend, I put in my orders for my turn, which include the contingency orders. And then when the turn is processed in the middle of the following week, bad things happen. So the contingency orders were written after the hostile rhetoric, but not before the attack. So Lyrans have indicated that they're declaring war and they're going to attack me. All right, well, I better write some contingency orders just in case they actually follow through with what they're saying. Bam, they follow through with what they're saying. Contingency orders kick in, boom, and away we go. So as opposed to the suggestion, the passive suggestion here, which is you wrote the contingency orders before the Lyrans even attacked you. You were trying to provoke them. I guess the question is a tug provocative? A tug on its own provocative? Yes, the Lyrans declared war. I even sent the Lyrans a message saying that I would withdraw the tug to the JJ line, which is what they were asking for. I was going to withdraw the tug if they would just, let's just de-escalate this. I'll withdraw the tug and we'll like resume our negotiations. But instead of that, they attacked it. So Gord says, I like this guy. He spins a good yarn. I will come back. This was an entertaining story. I want to find out what happens. Thank you for letting me participate. No problem, Gordo. Very much a pleasure to have you along. Okay, well, I guess that's it for today. We're a little over an hour. Thank you, or an hour and 45 minutes. Thank you for staying with us as long and powering through those technical difficulties at the very beginning. I don't know why that was the case. But if you have enjoyed this broadcast and enjoy it so much, then please be like Gordo and be our latest subscriber by hitting that subscribe button. And if you like it so much, then you can head over to coffee.com/New Worlds and join us as a subscriber, supporter, and join our coffee and Discord tier, where you can read, participate, and see all the banter back and forth and the witty repartee that occurs on our Discord channel. Join us for that. I was gonna call it something else, but join us for that the bevies and the brew and the banter going back and forth on all days of the week, as opposed to just here on Saturdays at 11 o'clock Pacific time, when our next live stream will be next week. All right, with that said, thank you very much, everybody. I will see you next time. Ciao for now.